From the Delhi studios of Republic TV, it's time for the debate.
Debate at 9. Presented by Renault Quid. Powered by PolicyBazaar.com, Bandhan Bank, Sera and OLX.
The debate. I'm Sucharita Kukreti. Prime Minister Narendra Modi today speaking at the Bloomberg Business Summit made a very strong come to India pitch. He made it very clear that India is the hub, the destination for global investors. And he very clearly told those 200 CEOs sitting in audience that India is waiting for you. मैं और भारत आपका इंतजार कर रहे हैं. And that's what we are debating tonight. Modi, from speaking about a clear come to India pitch to saying that India is the hub for global investors, means business. The road to a 5 trillion economy. That's our debate number 1. And at 10 p.m, debate number 2. Father of India face-off. Prime Minister Narendra Modi being called the father of the country, the unifier of the country, but it stings the opposition, and that's what we debate at 10 p.m. And let's begin with the headlines.
If you want to invest in a market where the latest trend and futures are appreciated, come to India.
Prime Minister attracts global investors with an aggressive investment pitch in America.
हम कमर कसकर $5 ट्रिलियन के लक्ष्य को प्राप्त करने के लिए काम कर रहे हैं.
The road to $5 trillion economy has been spelled out. India is the next investment destination.
If there is any gap anywhere, I will personally act as a bridge.
It is an investment push like never before. Prime Minister gives a personalized message to global CEOs.
I leave it to his wisdom, but we don't accept it. I reject Trump's statement. And you do whatever you want. We will not accept it.
Trump's father of India praise for Modi triggers a massive political fight back home. In 2 days, Prime Minister will take the stage at UNGA. Watch the biggest build-up on Republic TV.
Now, one of the things the Prime Minister highlighted and made it a slogan, he said, "Come to my India and we will make it happen."
Whether it's 4 a.m. in India or midnight in New York, Republic is keeping the nation ahead with a rolling coverage. Ladies and gentlemen, the opposition has done nothing but cry, crib and sulk about the economy. Tonight, when the Prime Minister has gone out of the way to attract investors to India, can the opposition really complain now? Here's how the Prime Minister made the investment pitch before global business leaders, and then we debate.
On the debate tonight, Modi means business. With an investment pitch like never before, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has set the ball rolling in the Big Apple.
The Prime Minister's parting shot at the Bloomberg Business Forum 2019 is that India is waiting for you. India is the destination for you. If there's a gap, I will bridge it. Come to my India. A strong pitch by the Prime Minister speaking at the Global Business Forum, one of the biggest forums, and the most distinguished panel of delegates were there. Over 500 noted names from around the world, and India has made a pitch for the $5 trillion economy.
If you want to invest in a market where the latest trend and futures are appreciated, come to India. If you want to invest in startups with the huge markets, come to India. If you want to invest in one of the world's largest infrastructure ecosystem, come to India. और हम कमर कसकर $5 ट्रिलियन के लक्ष्य को प्राप्त करने के लिए काम कर रहे हैं। फ्रेंड्स, इस बड़े टारगेट को अचीव करने के लिए हमारे पास कैपेबिलिटी भी है, करेज भी है और कंडीशंस भी हमारे साथ है। ये 4 फैक्टर हैं: डेमोक्रेसी, डेमोग्राफी, डिमांड एंड डिसिसिवनेस। अगर मैं पहले फैक्टर की बात करूं तो भारत में ऐसा मौका, ऐसी पॉलिटिकल स्टेबिलिटी कई दशकों के बाद आई है। जब डेमोक्रेसी हो, पॉलिटिकल स्टेबिलिटी हो, पॉलिसी प्रेडिक्टेबल हो, जुडिशरी इंडिपेंडेंट हो, तो इन्वेस्टमेंट की सेफ्टी, सिक्योरिटी और ग्रोथ का भरोसा अपने आप मिलता है। फ्रेंड्स, इस ग्रोथ को बल मिलता है भारत के डेमोग्राफिक डिविडेंड से, यंग और एनर्जेटिक टैलेंट पूल से। तीसरा, डिमांड का फैक्टर। जैसे जैसे भारत की बड़ी आबादी इकोनॉमिकली एम्पावर्ड हो रही है, परचेजिंग पावर बढ़ रही है, वैसे वैसे डिमांड भी बढ़ रही है। आज जो बात भारत को विशेष बनाती है वो है डिसिसिवनेस। एक डाइवर्स और फेडरल डेमोक्रेसी होने के बावजूद बीते 5 वर्ष में पूरे भारत के लिए सीमलेस, इंक्लूसिव और ट्रांसपेरेंट व्यवस्थाएं तैयार करने पर बल दिया गया। फ्रेंड्स, your desires and our dreams match perfectly. Your technology and our talent can change the world. Your scale and our skills can speed up global economic growth. धीरे धीरे दुनिया में डिग्री से ज्यादा स्किल का महत्व बढ़ता चला जाएगा। आपके पास एबिलिटी कितनी है उस पर बल जाएगा, और इसलिए हमने भारत में हर लेवल पर स्किल डेवलपमेंट के अंदर बल दिया।
Now, one of the things the Prime Minister highlighted and made it a slogan, he said, "Come to my India and we will make it happen." Of course, the Prime Minister highlighting his aim of the $5 trillion economy. He also spoke about how India is going to harness the power of youth, talking about the opportunities in India. And then from economy, he moved on to the aspect of social media being a guide and a motivator for his government to take feedback and work on it.
Let's debate.
So the Prime Minister today making a very, very strong come to India pitch. And I have with me the CEO of Niti Aayog, Mr. Amitabh Kant, a man who knows and understands the pulse of the Indian economy. Mr. Kant, I have my colleague Niranjan joining us from New York, where the Prime Minister just very shortly spoke on that Bloomberg Business Forum. I would like to ask you, sir, first of all, the Prime Minister today addressed 200 CEOs and made a very, very strong pitch. He said, Bharat intezar kar raha hai, main intezar kar raha hoon. What was your reading of the Prime Minister's very clear come to India pitch?
First of all, I think it was a very phenomenal interaction. It was a very inspiring interaction. And I think nobody can market, position and brand India better than the Prime Minister himself. And he shows his personal determination to take India to a $5 trillion economy. But I think there are two critical things which he said today. And firstly, that this very radical reform on corporate tax which has been brought in recently, that is bringing down our tax rate to much below global standards. That is new investments which come in from 1st October till 23 will actually be at 15%, and bringing everything else to about 25% really puts India in a very, very strong position. But what the Prime Minister said is that this is the beginning and there many more things will follow in due course. And secondly, he clearly pointed out that India will benchmark itself against global rules, global laws, and global governance. And that, to my mind, is sending out a very clear signal to the world that come make in India. And he will personally look into all the issues. And that rarely have I heard any Prime Minister ever say this. So this is a clear message that India will take its growth back to high trajectory growth rate. India will do everything possible to reform, and India will take everything possible to lift its growth so that young Indians can benefit from it, and that it will benefit from four key factors, and that is democracy, demography, the huge demand that we have because of domestic young population, and today he added the fourth one, that is the decisiveness of the government. And this is a very, very clear signal that the government will be extremely decisive as far as economic policy making is concerned.
Yeah. Mr. Amitabh Kant, good evening from here in New York. We're right outside the UN General Assembly, the UN headquarters. And I have with me also joining us, because there's someone who wants to also get in, but I'd like to have, I'd like to ask you a question, and then later Ravi Batra, who's an advocate and also the chairman of National Advisory Council, Southeast Affairs, is joining us live. Now, he would like to ask you a question later about the India story. But my question to you first, sir, Mr. Amitabh Kant, you've spoken, because we're down to business finally, we're talking trade, but there will be questions also asked, Mr. Kant, and one of the questions, of course, you have remarked in the past about energy being a driving factor in the next decade. We've announced that big energy tie-up, coming out of Houston, the $2.5 billion tie-up, and you've spoken about job creation. Now, is this the beginning, or is this just the highlight, and do you feel there will be much more to come before the Prime Minister takes off from New York as far as trade is concerned?
Narendra, I think the key issue is that our urbanization has just begun. The process of urbanization across America, across Europe has come to an end. It's nearing its completion in China. We are going to do more urbanization in the next 5 decades than what we've done in the last 5,000 years. And this would require really a lot of energy. And this, therefore, PM really focused on renewable energy. And if you look at our commitment at the Paris Accord, we've really gone all out for clean energy. We've gone out for renewable energy. Our target is very high, 175 gigawatt, and we are close to achieving that. And as we do this, the Prime Minister is also pushing that India gets into sunrise areas of industry, electric mobility, battery storage. These are areas which we'll drive in the future, and we will make breakthroughs. And therefore, my belief is that the partnership with the United States is very important. If you look at post-World War II, Japan, Korea, China, all have grown on the back of America. And it's very important that we in India realize this, that while we have a large domestic market, it's very important to penetrate the global markets of America. America, whatever we get in the domestic market, 10x of that we get when we export to United States. And therefore, America is a very strong market as far as our exports are concerned, as far as our energy relationship is concerned, and therefore, India-US trade relationships are important.
Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Kant, Mr. Ravi Batra's, listening to you very carefully. In fact, the day I landed, he was talking about the India story and the kind of message that the Prime Minister has sent out. Coming out of Houston and here in New York, some very bold statements made, very bold strides that India has taken. Mr. Batra, would you like to ask Mr. Amitabh Kant a question?
What advice are you giving the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi about making a trade deal with the United States that satisfies the United States no matter what? Because if India keeps playing the trade game where India always wants the best deal, always, so that India's trading partner is always on the losing position, how many people want to do business like that? So I hope that after President Trump took the initiative of accepting Narendra Modi's invitation to go to Houston, speak on American soil after being introduced by a foreign leader, which was unprecedented, and it was an act of such warmth that exceeds the limits of sovereignty. What is India going to do to repay this love that America has shown? And it better be a deal good for America, not just good for India.
Mr. Kant.
Well, Ravi, first of all, the Prime Minister himself is a great believer in the fact that India must be competitive and India must be a very integral part of the global supply chain. And if you look at India's track record, and if you were to look at the last 5 years, India is one of the rare few countries in the world which has opened up its economy to foreign direct investment. Unlike many other countries in the world, India opened up every single aspect of its economy, and therefore its foreign direct investment has grown by 66% at a point of time when FDI across the world has fallen by 13%. We've opened up every single sector of our economy. 95% of our FDI which comes in through the automatic route. But yeah, and this is a lesson for the rest of the world that India has really been aggressive as far as opening up its economy is concerned. And the Prime Minister is a great believer in trade as well. He believes that Indians must export. He believes that India must export to Europe and to America. And I'm quite sure that during this trip, Mr. Piyush Goyal is there. We'll have a detailed interaction. Yeah, Ravi, let me come to that point. Trade deals will have to be a win-win. Yeah. We realize that America offers us the market, and there are issues. And the issues that are there are not intractable. We need to find the right solutions for them. And I think we need to move forward on that. And a win-win between India and America will be good for the world.
Well, I agree with that. I agree with that central point that you've made.
Yeah.
I
think Sucharita is asking a question.
Okay,
the other anchor. Yeah. Sucharita, go ahead. Go ahead, Sucharita.
A 10 trillion economy by 2030. What I'm trying to understand from you, sir, how do you see the interactions the Prime Minister is having in New York, the agenda that he's setting in the larger scheme of things, moving towards that goal?
Well, I think it's I think it's really important that Prime Minister highlights the vast kind of reforms that have been carried out in the domestic economy. I mean, look at what he's done before leaving. I mean, India's tax rate structure is probably the best in the world now till 2023 for corporate. No country in the world has a tax rate of about 15%. And therefore, all the American companies, their future is not in America. Their future, if they want to create wealth, if they want to generate wealth for themselves, their future of American companies is in India.
Yeah. And I want to ask you one question, Mr. Khan. Before you leave, I want to ask you a question. And You know, we saw what happened between Donald Trump. Yes, Houston was Act 1. If New York is Act 2, we saw some, bold statements being made by the Prime Minister while being seated next to Donald Trump yesterday. As far as trade is concerned, there was a statement of intent when both of them said, when Donald Trump himself said that in the next few years, we will take all the steps necessary to iron out all issues that we have on trade. Now, the final chapter will be on Friday at the UNGA. Mr. Khan, economy aside, of course, economy and trade will be the biggest headline that India will want out of this visit. But what should be that one big factor that we should look forward to as far as the UNGA and the final speech of the Prime Minister is concerned here in New York?
Well, I think several aspects of climate change, of sustainability, of strategic issues, and of course, the fact that we are ourselves great believer that actually, from India's central standpoint today, nothing else but economic growth. The key is a single-minded pursuit towards a $5 trillion economy. And that is the goal path which the Prime Minister has left. I don't think we should bother about other issues. Our vision must be clear that we must head towards a $5 trillion economy because that will create jobs, that will bring in equity in India.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Amitabh Kant, thank you so much for speaking to Republic TV. And you made it very, very clear that India is surging ahead. India is moving towards that 5 trillion economy goal. And we are in the right direction. Thank you so much for speaking to us, sir. And let me introduce the guests on tonight's debate. I have with me Gaurav Bhatia, National Spokesperson of the BJP, joining me in the studio. Anand Ranganathan, authorized scientist, with me. Dr. Manisha Priyam, political analyst, joins us. Zafar Sareshwala is with me. I have Ravi Srivastav, Syed Aslam, Suneet Chopra and Anurag Batra on this debate at 9. And let me begin with Gaurav Bhatia and Ravi Srivastav. Gaurav Bhatia, what was the Prime Minister pitching for? When the Prime Minister says invest in a country where you want to invest in a startup, come to India. If you want to invest in an increasing purchasing power country, come to India. When you want to invest in skill development, come to India. He clearly meant business.
Absolutely, Sucharita. I think it was a very confident pitch also by the Prime Minister. And here is the Prime Minister of our country who's recognized as a global leader, who's brimming with confidence. And I think that confidence was showing. And the reason is that the 4 Ds that have been mentioned for sure, it's about democracy, it's about demography, decisiveness of the government, and also the demand. Comes with, skilled labor. That has changed over the past 5 years, and it is also due to the skill development programs that have been generated by the central government. But 2 things we should never forget, and I think the most important decisions that have transformed the economy are, one is introduction of GST. That has given us, a scale to measure up to and to tell the world, yes, we also have GST. And second is the introduction of the insolvency code, which has helped our economy and which has also taken care of the fears that all these investors had that if we are going in India, what would happen to us in case we want to recover our money. So I think these 2 have been historic decisions. And yes, it is also important that you lead from the front, you engage with all these world leaders, and you tell them that it's not only about demography, the government stands with the investors. And I think that confidence is very visible today when the Prime Minister...
The government stands with the investors, but does the opposition stand with the government? That's also an important question. Ravi Srivastav, the global business CEOs are praising the India story. Why aren't you praising it?
Sucharita, before we get into the debate, can I just take one comment with Mr. Ravi Batra and then free him, because I also have other panelists here waiting for us. Can I make a quick intervention, Sucharita? Quick intervention. Mr. Ravi Batra, I just want to ask you about the trade.
I will take that question from Ravi Srivastav in a while.
If we have to crack the trade deal, if you want to crack the trade deal, what's the way forward? I'll take a short comment from you and let you go.
Okay. It is imperative that after the victory lap that occurred in Houston, that America get a wonderful trade deal with India, and Prime Minister Modi and his team not leave United States without doing that, because delayed dividends can somehow disappear. when you have something as important as what occurred in Houston, there must be an immediate dividend beyond the politics. So Prime Minister Modi is India's #1 champion, #1 salesman, and he has done a fantastic job, and he should seal the deal with America before leaving. And one other thing which is of caution, no foreign country, and India is a foreign country, even maybe a birth mother of America, but is still a foreign country. No foreign country should bother with our domestic issues that every country deals with, because when every time a foreign nation starts to handicap what occurs in American politics, they don't know enough about America to do it right, and they generally screw up. So the best thing to do for India is to remain a loyal and honest friend of these United States, so that every American knows that they can count on every Indian to be a loyal friend and an ally, and that is how India will make it $5 trillion economy and a $10 trillion economy. All right? All the best to you.
Thank you, Mr. Ravi Batra. Thank you for joining us on this live broadcast. And I also have joining us, on the live non-stop rolling coverage here, Mr. Saurabh Shukla, Ankur Vaidya, and Mr. Jagdish Suwani. Ankur Vaidya is the former president and trustee of Federation of Indian Associations, New York, New Jersey, and the Connecticut chapter. Ankur, please come forward. Saurabh Shukla is a Republic partner and editor-in-chief of newsmobile.in, and Jagdish Suwani is the president to my right. He's the president of America India Public Affairs Committee. So I have a panel with me. I think you want to get the first initial comments from there, and we'll get the debate started.
All right, so Narendra, we come back to you as you have a panel with you there right in New York, right after the PM's keynote address at the Bloomberg Business Forum. And I'll go across to Ravi Srivastav, Syed Aslam. Ravi Srivastav, you heard it from New York. Prime Minister today spoke as a salesman, and he's made it very clear that if you want returns, you come to India. The global CEOs are praising India's economic story. Why isn't Ravi Srivastav praising it?
Sucharita, Mr. Modi is a very good salesman, there is no doubt about it. But the fact is, in the last 5 years, he could not sell anything. This is the 10th time he has gone to several foreign countries, including US, spent more than 5,000 crore rupees on the various foreign sojourns. But the fact is that nothing has come to India. This is the fact.
Is that the truth, Ravi Srivastav?
Yeah, it's a truth. I am telling you. You are a 2.6 trillion economy as of now. And for reaching to 5 trillion economy, you have to grow at the rate of 14% for the GDP. While your GDP is dumped in the 5% at the moment. Your banks have sunk. Your ILFS, your DHFL. So, Charita, either you allow me to speak or you speak. Because you did not stop Mr. Gaurav Bhatia. You allow me to speak, finish up first, then you come back. I don't mind that. Now I am telling you, your banks are sunk here.
Shout and get so,
they are very smart.
Anguished.
They know it very well.
Whenever India celebrates, you people whine.
Why did they put a
perpetual pessimists.
Why did they take
and
away
that too without any reason?
Why did
I'm just giving you the number, Ravi ji.
For the Indians?
Last 3 years in a row, FDI has been more than 60 billion US dollars. That itself is a record.
5%.
In last 5 years, 286 billion US dollars.
I'm sorry I started this debate with you, because if anyone is to listen to you, it would seem that nothing's going good with the India story. If anyone is to listen to you outside the country, they would think nothing's wrong,
it can be summed up in one line. Here in Pakistan, jealousy in the opposition.
That is what Ravi Srivastav's narrative is all about. Let me go across to Niranjan, because he has guests there waiting, and then I would come back to my panelists. Niranjan, over to you.
Yeah, Sucharita, there may be as many pessimists as possible. It doesn't matter what they have to say, because, here we have to speak as one, because it's important that India puts a united, front in New York, and that's exactly what we have been doing. So domestically, they can say whatever, they can call the Prime Minister names, it doesn't matter, because when we are outside of India and representing India, it's important to highlight the India story. You can say what you want. Saurabh?
Foreign policy is a bipartisan thing, and this is, I think, every opposition party in India should be happy that India and India's Prime Minister is getting elevated space. How many times does it happen that I was there at the Bloomberg's Economic Forum, Prime Minister had his opening address to the captains of industry. He's selling brand India. It's India. He's Prime Minister of India. He's not Narendra Modi, who's the head of the BJP. He is the Prime Minister of India, elected Prime Minister of India. And I think we should realize that on diplomacy, on matters of national interest, you have to be one. You may have your differences, but you have to settle it, keep them aside, and make sure you hail the good things which has happened. How many times you have seen the American president standing next to the Indian Prime Minister in an event called Howdy Modi? So these are the things, and you will see at the UN the way yesterday how many leaders came for the pitch at the special ceremony at the UN when it came for Mahatma Gandhi. So this is the love for India. This is a new India. It's an elevated diplomatic gains we have got, and I think we should realize and praise it. In fact, you saw Milind Devra's tweet. He's a Congress guy, but he has tweeted, he realizes how important it is for Prime Minister, the gains that he has made on the Indo-US relations, and obviously trade will also happen, Narendra. That's something which is going to happen. It's a work in progress.
Yeah, and that is something that has even split the opposition down the middle, but it's important that here we leave the domestic politics aside and talk about what's coming up next. Ankur, if you've gone through the highlights of what the Prime Minister said at the Bloomberg Business Forum, like Saurabh has also been highlighting, he said, come to India. India is the destination if you're looking for the future. India is the destination. We have all it takes. And he did mention that if there are gaps, I will fill that gap. Now, that's a personal assurance. And we've seen how the government has most recently with the corporate tax displayed, displayed their mantra of how they will go all out to iron out differences, thrash out differences. Now, how do you view the Prime Minister's pitch at the Bloomberg Business Forum?
I think it's a step in the right direction. I think you rightly mentioned that the corporate tax slash is also a vital step in getting that message across to the domestic Indians, to the corporate India, and to the overseas companies that are looking to venture into India. And I think we'll see the results unfolding in the near future. I mean, when there's trade at the center stage, there is no low-hanging fruits. It's a work in progress. It's a policy to be implemented, and there's a lot of moving components as have been seen. But I think to add to Saurabh's point and to second it, I think in my 25 years that have been spent in America and the receptions we have seen of prime ministers that came from the past, it was a small conference room with about 100 or 120 people. Most of them were relatives or friends or family and who's who of the community. You have never seen a community engaged into an issue of our motherland at the level it's been engaged. So by the virtue of engaging in the diaspora, the Prime Minister has engaged the American mainstream Indian diaspora, which has a lot of sway in terms of what happens. And I think you will see it as we move forward in the very near future, it yielding fruits and things coming to fruition in terms of trade policies are concerned.
Yeah. Quick word from Mr. Jagdish Sawhney. Mr. Sawhney, how are you looking at it?
I think what Prime Minister said, he used the word decisiveness. Now there is a red carpet for companies to come and invest in India. So that is the word Prime Minister used. We are in a different phase here. Prime Minister means business. He is like a CEO of Bharat, India. So what he said at Bloomberg Summit was clear. Come and invest in India. And for India to achieve this 5 trillion economy, we need America. The Americas and India, they have to come together. The bilateral trade, which is now about $125 billion, if we want 5 trillion economy, it has to go at least $200 billion a year before so that to achieve the goal of $5 trillion. And we can do it under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi. In 5 years, he has laid the great foundation, solid foundation for a great economy, foreign policy and national security. Now, next 5 years, we are going to put a grand palace on that foundation.
Okay, so we're right outside the UN headquarters. Saurabh, I'm just handing it back to them, and then we'll have a longer chat. We're right outside the UN headquarters where the Prime Minister met Donald Trump yesterday, and on Friday he will be addressing the UN General Assembly. So all the focus will be on that address for now. Sucharita, I'm handing it back to you. We continue to remain live from New York. We're outside the UN General Assembly. Handing it over to you for now.
Right, Niranjan, and let me go across to Anand Ranganathan and Syed Aslam for now. Syed Aslam, the political stability, the 4 Ds that the Prime Minister spoke about, the political stability that the country is witnessing, isn't that important for investment? The D being for decisiveness. That is also an important factor. Don't you see it like that?
Yeah, so
Anand,
it's a very good...
I'll go across to Anand, but first Syed Aslam.
Sayedji, would you please...
let me tell you, it is...
Okay,
Let me
first,
tell you,
Sayedji,
it is
you go
definitely
first.
a wonderful pitch by Modi ji, no doubt about it. But I would say an ounce of practice is better than tons of preaching. We've been talking about conducive business environment for the last 6 years, right? What has happened? Nothing has happened till now. Look at, we are seeing the 5 trillion economy as a cruel joke in India today. The GDP is at 5%. The supply chain management, the supply chain has been demolished. Agricultural growth is at 2.7%. The automobile growth is at 19-year low, right? The garment industry is destroyed. Look at all the industry. The PSUs, the MSMEs, which are the backbone of our country, are at the brink of collapse. This is what is the economy. And we are talking, it is from the last 6 years, it has been only hollow promises and no delivery.
Anand,
says,
in 2014, when Narendra Modi came to power, it was a 2 trillion economy. 5 years and a 1 trillion added.
What is the
Why
vision?
should we not be optimistic?
We've got a bailout of 1.76 lakh crores. The finance minister doesn't even know where.
Right. Sayedji, please, can you please, the question's been asked of me. Can you please give me 1 minute, please?
I think it's going to answer some of the questions that you've raised, Anand.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me. So, you know, the Prime, and 2 days ago I said this was one of the most historic visits of Prime Minister Modi, and I stick by that. Having said that, Mr. Modi has pressed all the right buttons, but unfortunately set all the wrong targets. The targets are so stiff. ऐसे कैसे चलेगा, कैसे पूरा होगा? Let me give you 3 examples of where we go wrong. You know, we had the Skill India target where Mr. Modi said in 2015 that he will skill 500 million people. What happened? We ended up skilling less than 5 million. The gentleman you were interviewing, Mr. Amitabh Kant, on 8th November 2016, on the day of demonetization, he said this is the beginning of a cashless economy. At that point of time, cash in circulation was 16 trillion. Right now, cash in circulation is 21 trillion. मतलब कुछ तो सोच के बात करो. And thirdly, right now our total power generation capacity is 370 gigawatts. Just today, the Prime Minister has said he has set a renewable target of 450 gigawatts. So, you know, all the intention is fantastic. But I have to say these targets are so stiff. How are we going to meet them? And finally, on the 5 trillion economy, I have all good wishes, you know, to Mr. Narendra Modi. We all want India to prosper well. But you must remember, world trade is at its lowest ebb since 2009 subprime crisis. The world is probably going into a recession. We are at a $2.6 trillion
Anurag Batra.
We are growing at 5 to 6%.
Anurag Batra, it's a very small question. Isn't the mandate an opportunity for a new India? The Prime Minister spoke about the country getting this kind of mandate after decades. So isn't this mandate also an opportunity? Anurag Batra.
Absolutely. And Narendra Modi is cashing on the opportunity. Yes. And you know, we can't be cynical about what the Prime Minister is doing for the country. On one hand, we are saying there is a need for investment. We need to get global investors. The Prime Minister is going and doing that and making a pitch, getting the attention on India and getting conversations saying. And the Prime Minister said, if there is a problem, I will be the bridge. What else can the Prime Minister do? He's done GST. He's done a corporate tax cut. He's made sure that, you know, there is a insolvency law. So the Prime Minister is rightly being very entrepreneurial for India. The Prime Minister is doing everything. The Congress spokesperson and the gentleman who spoke before me, yes, we need to aim high to get somewhere. Even if we become a 4 trillion economy. Yes, Narendra Modi is saying we should be a 5 trillion economy. But let's say we only become a 4.5. The Prime Minister is aiming high. We'll get somewhere.
What is that laughter for, Ravi Batra?
No major global investment.
What is that laughter for, Ravi Batra?
Of course.
What is that laughter for?
As a person, as an entrepreneur, we set targets. We may not get to those targets, but that doesn't mean that we do not aim high.
Not Ravi Batra.
Syed Aslam has also joined in. What's the joke?
Contradiction
you
in the
could
way
share it with us.
The cynical people of this panel are looking at it.
I do not believe in laughing when it comes to speaking about the growth story for the country. But you could share the joke. You could share the joke. Maybe some would laugh.
I object to myself being bunched as cynical. There is a difference between being cynical and being realist.
The truth, the reality, the return from the
जो मन में आया target set कर दिया ऐसा नहीं होगा भैया.
Reports are in negative.
You're the realist.
Let's try to be realist. I'm not cynical. I wish this country all the best. I wish Narendra Modi all the best. But the proof of the pudding is in the eating.
And where are the supports?
जो मन में आया target रख दिया. Now he says
this country. You should say wish my country. You should say my country. I don't know why wish this country. That only shows the kind of reverence you have for the country.
Very good.
This country.
Wonderful.
Is that the way you speak about your own country, Ravi Srivastava? I'm kind of appalled. I'm kind of appalled.
Yes.
No.
Yes. No,
I am kind of appalled by the way you are addressing the country, Ravi Srivastava. And I really want to say this. I really want to say this.
We are not in hallucination.
$1.3 trillion on modern infrastructure, Gaurav. This is unprecedented. This is unprecedented.
You know, we have heard the 4 Ds which are very, very positive. There is another D for the opposition. That is destructive. They are
destructive is the other D for you, Syed Aslam.
One by one. असलम जी इतना नाराज मत होइए. ठीक है, मुझे पता है आप जल रहे हैं, धुआं ही धुआं हर जगह. बट मोदी जी आपके भी प्रधानमंत्री हैं. So I would only say to the perpetual pessimist that why should we forget that when it comes to ease of doing business, last year itself, India went up by 23 places to 77.
Yes, we've scaled heights.
And I'll give a cricket analogy. You know, for the last 5 years, say a century is scored and the run rate every over has been 7 to 8 runs per over. In the last over, if it is 5 runs, would you say that suddenly that innings is not worth playing? Let us remember for the last 5 years, the average GDP growth has been above 7%. Why should we forget the digital transactions? My friend Anandji was very rightly pointing it out, have doubled. Why should we
the
forget
automobile industry has gone to 19-year low?
Given
Do you call this as growth?
Let me take that across to Zafar Sareshwala.
And one more thing.
Zafar Sareshwala and Sunit Chopra. They've been waiting. Zafar Sareshwala and Sunit Chopra. Zafar Sareshwala, the ease of doing business. We've scaled up 23 places. We're at 77 now. That speaks of the kind of conducive environment this government is trying to create. No one will invest in a country that does not give returns. And there are companies and countries queuing up to invest in India. Zafar Sareshwala.
Ma'am, see, for me, the most important thing here is that you have Mr. Modi is the Prime Minister of India. He's selling India. I mean, the kind of commitment a Prime Minister is showing in bringing people to the country. I mean, the way he started this, let me complete. The way he started in Houston and the way he has performed, and you very correctly said, we have never seen in years the President of America sharing stage, or rather coming to the stage of the Indian Prime Minister. And the way he took center stage at the UNGA summit, and today this Bloomberg Business Summit is one of the key events in the American corporate history. I mean, to speak in front of the 200 people who are sitting on pile of cash. So the kind of pitch which Mr. Modi has done, I think that needs to be appreciated, because ultimately whatever money is going to come, the investment which is going to come,
is Sunit Chopra appreciating
India
it?
Which is going
is Sunit
to
Chopra
progress.
appreciating
So
it?
I think whatever problems you have in India, you can settle that. But when the Prime Minister is outside India, I think we all need to be together with him.
Well, the countries and the top CEOs are appreciating it, but what about back home? Sunit Chopra. Sunit Chopra.
The first point that we should take, the Prime Minister is selling India, as Mr. Sareshwala said. This country does not want to be sold. This country wants to be developed. And if you listen to the Americans who spoke in your program, they were saying America needs a good deal. Why does it need a good deal? When we are sending professionals to America and paying for their educational training here, that is a good enough deal. We don't have to give America a better deal than it deserves.
These are two things. These are two different things. Trade negotiations are a part of an ongoing trade discussion.
We're talking about the brand India.
I think that's a
We're talking about a brand India.
And
if there are takers for that brand India, we need to celebrate that, Sunit Chopra.
Every country is always trying to maximize what the country gets for
not
itself
knowing that
and
he was
for
telling the truth without
ecosystem.
actually being
I think that's a
conscious of
separate
it.
discussion. To bring that into the fact that Prime Minister Modi is making a pitch for India to get investments into India, because business investments are the only way.
You need to market your product, and India is a market, and Mr. Modi is selling that.
India is not a bloody product. It's my country.
You need to sell.
I'm not
you need to market the country.
Mind your language.
How on earth
Sunit Chopra.
if you don't market it, you don't put it in front of the industrial.
Market yourself if anyone
You
willing
need,
to buy you.
Mr. Chopra, you
Market
need
your
this
bloody
kind
self
of
if you
leadership.
think Is anyone willing to buy you? We don't.
Sunit Chopra, when the country is a top brand in the world today and there is a beeline of investors, you should be proud as an Indian. You should be proud as an Indian.
No,
you seem to be finding faults in everything.
People that the beeline came to this country, they were enemies of India who destroyed people. Show me 5 people who is making a beeline here. Show me.
See, Mr. Chopra, you have problems with America, I can understand.
I think from
you have hatred towards America.
I think we need to get things into perspective. When Prime Minister Narendra Modi from saying come to India, Bharat intezar kar raha hai, India is waiting for you, from making it clear that India is going to jumpstart and move towards that 5 trillion economy goal. Who's going to benefit from that? You and me. We as Indians benefit from that. And that is why we very proudly say that Narendra Modi means business. The country means business. That's all we had for today's debate. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us on this debate number 1. Thank you.